Howdy folks, Big Anklevich here. I used to weigh 300 pounds. I had diabetes, sleep apnea, acid reflux, all sorts of problems. But then I found the carnivore diet and I was able to lose 100 pounds, ditch the diabetes, cure the sleep apnea and the acid reflux, and I am feeling great and have very few problems whatsoever these days. And it's all thanks to the carnivore diet. Now, I talk about carnivore diet on here a lot. One of the things that I talked about on here just a little while ago was how I like to include a lot of fat in my diet. I do it by making fat fries. I made a video about it. It's going up there. I always point to the wrong direction. This thing is just too difficult for me. I made this video talking about fat fries. One of the things that happens when you make fat fries is a lot of tallow renders out of the fat that you fry. And you can pour it into a jar and save it for later. So I mentioned that one of the things that we do is we save it for later, and then my wife has learned how to make soap out of tallow. She thought that would be fun. She gave it a try, and the soap is great. I love it. I use it for everything. I even wash my hair with it. I mentioned it, and I got this comment from Shannon Rose who said, "Thank you for sharing this. I normally cube mine, but I like this idea better. I haven't tried to make soap, but I'd watch that video." So I decided, well, the next time I get enough tallow to make some soap, I'm going to make that video. And guess what? It's time. I got enough tallow. It's time to make soap. And my wife is talking me through it. I really don't know what I'm doing, but she's going to talk me through it. And so I will tell you how we made it. And then you can try it yourself. It's a pretty awesome way to make use of that tallow that you gather when you cook up your fat as you lose your weight and get your health back on the carnivore diet. Okay, so as you can see, I started with these mason jars full of tallow that I collected from frying my fat fries up. I would fry it in the air fryer, and I would pour the fat that drained out, that rendered out, into a bottle. And I would save it for later. And I did that for several pounds of fat, and after a while I had these two bottles, which basically, my wife says that if you fill up 1.5 mason jars, the big mason jar that's on the right, 1.5 of those full, that will give you enough to make a big block of soap. And I don't know, this is what this recipe calls for. Okay, so the first thing you got to do is get that tallow into the pan. I put it into the microwave first just so that I could pour it out, and then I started heating it up on the stove. Now my wife says it's really important that you get it to 100 degrees. It has to be right at 100 degrees for this stuff to work, I guess. So you heat it up, and you don't want to heat it up too much, because if you do, it takes a while for it to cool off. It doesn't cool as fast as it heats, so be careful. When I heated it up, you stir it, you help it to melt all the way, and I thought, okay, it looks like it's getting ready. I checked the temperature, and it was already at, 120, something like that, and I thought, uh-oh, I overdid it. I better get it off, so I took it off of the stove and set it aside. My wife said it's not too big of a deal if you're a little over, because you will cool it down through the straining process, which is the next thing that you do. We have this bowl, and first of all, I put it on and weighed it out so that I could see that I had exactly 32 ounces or 2 pounds of tallow. And that is what the recipe calls for. 2 pounds, 32 ounces of tallow. Okay, so I measured it with that. Then the next thing I did was I put this sieve that we have into this container, put cheesecloth into the sieve to help it be even a better strainer. I like using this sieve because it sits. Use this bowl and this sieve because it sits, right in there, and I don't have to hold it with my hand. It's much easier if you can do that. And that's why the tallow is back in this pot. I put the tallow back in the pot so that I could pour it through into the bowl. And can't really see anything here because my arm is blocking everything, but eventually I'll get out of the way and you can see that the tallow is straining its way through the cheesecloth, through the sieve, and into the bowl. It goes kind of slowly, but the cheesecloth helps to get all the little impurities out. You don't want pieces of ground beef in your soap. I'm sure for one, it would probably make it smell a little funky if you still got ground beef in your soap, and two, it might get gross after a while. If the ground beef is still in there, it might start to, decompose and get gross. So you do that, and since I have the bowl that fits the sieve like this, I'm going to pour it back into the other bowl, the pot, and then do it again. So you pour it back into the pot, then you take the pot over and you pour it back through the cheesecloth and the sieve. And you do that several times. You got to do it, my wife says 3 or 4 times, or you could do it more, I guess. Purify your tallow as much as you want. I'm sure doing it more can't hurt, although eventually you may run low on tallow. I don't know how much the cheesecloth will soak up on you. If you do it 100 times, you may find that you're missing some tallow. But once you get that, and you're doing good, now you've got to get your water ready. Your tallow is ready to go. Now it's time to get your water ready. So you put your bowl onto the scale and you measure 12.16 ounces, which I don't know how my wife came up with that number, but our scale wouldn't even do that. I had to get 12.15 ounces because it only goes by fives when it gets to the 10th place, the 1/10 decimal. And so I kept messing with it until I got it exactly right. The funny thing is you can't even see that I'm doing that. You can't see the weight because the lip of the bowl perfectly covers the readout on the scale. But I got it to 12.15 ounces. Okay? And then you get your lye. Now, lye is a very caustic thing. You don't want to mess around with lye. Make sure you wear gloves when you're using lye. This container I have to put the lye in because we have to measure out how much lye we've got. Don't play around with the lye. We got this lye, I'm pretty sure, off of Amazon. You can find your own. I'm not affiliated with any lye, and I'm not going to put a link to any lye. I don't know. Just get lye where you can get it. And be careful with it because it is super caustic. And, let me just tell this story real quick. When I first heard of lye, it was reading a Stephen King book called Bag of Bones. In that book, the character used lye to melt the bones of somebody so that the ghost would go away. They melted bones with it. So that just tells you just how caustic lye is. Don't mess around with it. Make sure you've got gloves on and you're being careful. Okay? So you put it on the scale with your gloves on, and you open it up and you start measuring how much you're going to put in there. And you need to have 4.2 ounces of lye to go in your water. So you just pour that in there. This time around you can at least see the measurement. So it's a decent amount of lye. It's not a tiny bit. I thought it might only be a tiny bit, but you got to pour in a bunch. That's not even 1 ounce yet, and I got to get to 4. So started pouring it a little faster, and it started going up quicker, and eventually I get myself to 4, and then I start being a little more careful because I'm getting close. So there's 4.15, and come on, you can do it. 4.2. Okay, we did it. Put the lid back on, screw it in, and I also got the lid for the container, and I put that back on right away too. The next thing I did was go outside, because you don't want to be doing this inside your house, just in case. Now you're going to mix the lye into the water. This will cause a reaction, okay? The lye is going to get hot. This mixture is going to get really hot. So put it on, this is our backyard cement. Just put it on something where it's not going to cause a problem. And you just keep stirring it, and you have to stir it until the water stops being cloudy. And that takes a little while. I wasn't sure exactly what my wife wanted, so I kept asking for help, making sure I was doing it right, because she was inside and I was not. And I kept having to go back in, open the door. Hey, is this look good? No? Okay. And I went back out to it. But yeah, you stir this until the water gets totally or basically clear. That is when the lye has mixed into the water enough that you can use it to do the reaction with the tallow that will create your soap. Okay? So once you get there, you come inside. You got your tallow in its bowl, ready to go. It's all purified and waiting for the lye. And you come in with the lye, pour the lye in, and then with we use our immersion blender, something like that. You want some kind of a mixer. I guess you could stir it by hand. It'll take a while. It took a while with the immersion blender, so if you don't have one, you might want to get one if you're going to do this. Get some kind of a blender of some sort, some kind of a mixer that you can keep stirring it with. You got to stir this stuff until it gets a consistency like pudding. Not like pudding that's finished, like, the consistency that pudding is before you put it into the fridge is basically what it has to be. That's what my wife was saying that it needed to be. So I mixed this stuff for a long time. It took so long that the mixer got hot, and I just kept going and going, and finally she said, nah, I think that's good enough. And once it gets good enough, now you want to put in your scent. Now, you don't have to do that, I suppose. A scent is not necessary, but it's going to make your soap a little nicer. My wife said we got to use 2 ounces of scent. We had this chamomile. This is an essential oil. I don't know anything about essential oils, but my wife claims they're not chemical because they're essential oils. I can't understand how anything could have a scent and not have chemicals in it. So maybe you don't want to use it because you want to keep the chemicals out of your soap, or you can just use it and deal with a little bit of chemicals. I would assume that essential oil has less chemicals than other things. I don't know, to tell you the truth. But now you go in again with the blender and you mix it until the oil, the essential oil, is blended in real good, until it has become one with your pudding. Okay, and then after that is done, you get your mold. We got this mold off of Amazon as well. It's a standard mold, supposedly, for soap, and you just pour your soap in. I think you could probably do all sorts of different molds, like maybe get silicone molds that have, the little, like a shape on it of some sort, like a cutesy little shape or something, and make cutesy little soaps like that. Or in this case, you're making soap for using in the shower. This is hardcore soap, so it's just a huge block. Okay, so you fill this thing up. You cover it with parchment paper, And then you cover it with 2 washcloths. Okay, the washcloths are there to keep it from cooling too fast. You want it to cool, but not too fast. You wrap it all up like that, and then carefully you put it into the corner and you let it sit. And it has to sit for 24 hours in the corner as it solidifies slowly. And when you're done with the 24 hours, it will have solidified. You can unwrap it back up and take a look at what is in there. It'll feel like a really soft cheese or something. It's solid-ish. It's not particularly solid, but you pull it out of the soap mold, and you then can take the silicone mold. Since it's silicone, you can kind of peel it back. It's pretty pliable. You can peel it off, and now you just have your brick of soap there. Okay, oh, we've got an ant. Get out of here, ant. Oh, there's a couple of ants. Uh-oh. Okay, so you've got your brick of soap. Now you get the something to cut it with into bars. Now my wife has this little cutter that she got, which has a cutesy little design on it. Just a wiggly design, I guess. I don't know. I think it's probably good for soap because then you have, less of the soap actually sitting down. I don't know if you've seen how they do that with soap sometimes, where even soap holders, they have those little spikes on it so the soap kind of sits up on it and it's not down in the water, and that keeps it from washing away quicker. And so I think that's basically what this cutter is for, is to give you that thing. But you don't have to have that. I think you can cut it just with a knife or any old thing, and that would work just fine. And you cut it into pieces. You put it onto a cutting board or something that you can set it on. We've just got this plastic cutting board here. You put it on there, and you just have to leave it there. Now, the soap is really, really soft still. It's not ready for use. So the next thing you got to do is let it sit, and it's 4 weeks that it has to sit, and it steadily hardens slowly. And during those 4 weeks, you have to take every day, once a day, take those bars of soap, flip them over so that the other side can dry a little bit more. And you do that once a day, every week, for 4 weeks, until they're finally dried up and hardened. And when they're finally hardened and into full, ready-to-use shape, you can now take that and put it into your shower and use it to wash your body. I use it to wash my hair. It's great. Probably wouldn't work so well to wash the hair of a female. Long hair might be a little bit more difficult. My hair is pretty short, so it's not that big of a deal. But you can wash your hair with it. Maybe you could, I don't know, you hear people talk like, there's that old saying when somebody would ask somebody on a date, and she would not want to go with the guy, and so she'd be like, oh, I'm washing my hair on that day. I guess if maybe they were using this stuff, that might make sense. That's why it takes so long. It's such a big ordeal. I always thought that was weird. It's like, yeah, don't you wash your hair every day? But no, you're not supposed to do that. It damages hair if you wash it every day when it's long hair like that. But also, maybe it took, like, I don't know, a whole fleet of people when you had long hair and you had bars of tallow soap to wash it with. Maybe that was what was going on. Anyways, all right, so there you have it. That's how you make soap. You make soap with tallow that you rendered down from the fat that you cooked yourself and ate. It's an awesome way of using every piece. They talk about eating nose to tail, using an animal, every bit of it. This is one way to use a little bit more of it, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that's how we do it. That's how you make soap, and eventually you can use it. And it's great. It's good stuff. I really like it. Love how it feels, and I feel nice using it. I feel like I'm not, using a bunch of chemicals on myself. I'm not coating myself with a bunch of detergents and so forth, which we know are not particularly good for your skin, or your skin actually absorbs this stuff, and so it's not good for your body on the inside either. So that's what we do. And if you enjoyed this, hopefully give it a like and subscribe. And also, if there's anything you have a question about or you're confused about, leave a comment down below and I will answer that comment, and hopefully I can clear things up for you. Also, if you're not sure how to go about rendering your own fat down, I've got that video, which is right up there. You can just go and see the video on how to make your own fat fries. Okay, just follow that and click on it and watch it, and you can see how to make fat fries, which are a great way to get your fat in, and super cheap too. It's really a good way to do it. So check that out. All right, folks. See you next time on Big Anklevich on Health.